Welcome, everybody, to the RedX podcast. I'm Curtis Fenn, your host today. Pretty excited to be here today. Pretty excited about our guest. I think it's his first time being on our podcast, but after today, you'll hope it won't be the last. So I'm pretty excited. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but welcome Andy Nelson to the RedX podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Andy, as always, thank you for being here. You know, people are watching from all over the country, and they tune in every Thursday, 1 p.m. on, YouTube and Facebook and everything. So for those people, if you have comments or questions, put them in there. As Andy and I talk, as if we mention books or websites or whatever, we'll try to get those links to you as they come in. But Andy, why don't you start with an intro? Tell everybody who you are, why I'm excited to have you here. Come to the brag table a little bit so that they understand why it's important that they listen to you.
So definitely not one of my favorite things to do is talk about myself or brag about myself. But I understand in this scenario, credibility makes a difference, right? So I kind of tell everyone that I'm the guy that's failed out of real estate a handful of times, and now I'm here to make sure that you don't. I've been in and out of the business since 2011. So I originally got my license while on active duty in the United States Navy. And after 4 months of being licensed, I decided that I could go full-time into real estate and did not need the Navy anymore. It lasted about a year before I had to go get another job. And then I kind of went back and forth in and out of real estate until COVID. And truthfully, the pandemic was life-changing for my family in the opposite way that it was for most. It gave me an opportunity to get back into real estate, to really focus on the business. And for the last 5 years, it's been full-time real estate, nonstop. And what that looks like is I consistently sell between 65 and 75 homes a year myself. This year, I just started a small team. I'm also a partner in our brokerage. We're the #2 brand in our market, as well as a Glover U coach. So I have coaching clients across the country that I coach weekly on one-on-one coaching calls every single week. So I have a good idea of what's happening across the country, as well as I'm still a top producing agent here in my local market.
Yeah. Well, people should listen, right? I mean, the tuition you paid and then the success. Look, I mean, 65, 70 homes is huge. And starting a team is big. And yeah, so we're excited to dive in. We have some topics that we talked about in kind of the pre-show here that I'm excited about, that I think that even Andy said, you said these are topics that you're being invited to keynote on. So definitely get your pad and paper out to take some notes. We're going to go for about 30 minutes. And if you're listening, you got to take this in. And my challenge to all of the listeners is you're looking for one thing. If you find 5, great. But you're looking for one thing that you can immediately implement into your business, like right now, that will change the trajectory of the rest of the year for you in terms of your production or your mindset or your happiness or your lifestyle, something that's going to give you the benefit of the whole reason why we're in this business, to enjoy some freedom and to be our own boss and all of that. So, Andy, we talked about this. As we look out at our customers and the real estate, and as we're at conferences and things, I think burnout seems to be at the top of the list. People are overwhelmed. The stats continue. 70% of agents haven't done a deal this year, which can be a little deceiving. 35, half of those people don't do a deal anyway because they just keep their license active, right?
Don't do deals, right?
But it is more than normal. I mean, people aren't doing deals. Transactions, they just adjusted. Most economists just adjusted, say we're trending like 3.9 million transactions. So that's the lowest year since like 1994. And yet we have 70 million more homeowners. I think people are stuck in homes because of low interest rate. It's just hard. Right. I even started when you said things are good. And I said, you said busy. And I said, are they busy because you're working 3 times as hard for less money? Because that, and the answer was no, by the way, to anybody listening. But for a lot of people in our industry right now, that's the case. It just feels overwhelming.
So, it is the case. And I sorry to cut you off there, but our group of coaches. So I coach with Glover U, one of the fastest growing coaching organizations in the country. And every week we have a coach development call where there's 25 of our coaches. We're on a call and we're talking about the things that we're seeing in the market. We are tracking right now between a 30 and 35% fallout rate. So homes that go under contract, 1 in 3 are falling out right now. And if you've been in the business less than 5 years, you have no idea what that means, what that looks like, because deals didn't fall out in 2021. Buyers were taking anything they could find. It didn't matter. Whereas nowadays, buyers are being a little bit more picky. So you're right. We are doing more work for essentially, hopefully, the same result, if not less results.
Well, tell me, what do I do then? I mean, if I always want to get into the tactics of what they should do to get results. But before that, just speak to us a little bit about how do we recognize when we're starting to get burned out? How do we, sorry to give these long contextual questions here, Andy, but I just had a conversation, right? The reason why I was, even logging in last minute here to start our podcast was I was having a conversation with an employee telling him that I realized that one of the reasons I feel burned out is because you get stressed and then you stop doing things that you should be doing. And the biggest thing for me is I usually do between 30 and 40 books a year. And keep my mind sharp, stay on the cutting edge of what's going on in business and marketing and our industry. And this year I haven't read a single book. And I'm like, okay, well, why is that? Well, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. So then I listen to music on my drives instead of an audiobook. And, but I'm glad I recognized it now, but I wish I would have recognized that 6 months ago. So
true. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do agents, give the advice?
Yeah. So I think we've all probably met someone at some point in this real estate industry who just hates their job. Whether they are good at it or not, whether they're a top producer or not, they're just unhappy. That's burnout. It's very, very simple. Burnout in real estate doesn't look like exhaustion. It's not necessarily a physical type of exhaustion. It's apathy. When agents, and I'm guilty of it, right? Like I have those days where I just don't want to answer my phone. If your phone is ringing and it could potentially be an opportunity and you don't want to answer that call, what does that say about where you feel in your business? Agents ghost their CRM and they busy themselves with non-revenue producing activities. See, burnout is when you're doing everything else except the thing that moves your business forward because you're too trained to care. It's apathy.
And do you think that's more of a subconscious thing? Like I feel busy because I'm doing all this stuff. I'm staying busy during the day, during work hours. Do you think it doesn't seem like a conscious decision to ignore the most important things you should do in your business? So why is that?
I call it death by 1,000 distractions.
Okay.
So, truthfully, I have envelopes on my desk. I send mail every day. Should I pick up the phone and prospect? Or in the morning, let's say, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. during my prospecting window, I know that I should be on the phone calling expireds, but instead I'm going to send them mail because that's a less confrontational way, right? Because I don't feel like taking the effort or putting forth the effort to overcome objections today. I just don't feel like it. So I'm going to send them some mail instead. Allowing those little things like that to become distractions will kill you. Saying yes to everything because you're afraid of missing out is another way. So, we all have those agents in our market that are at every happy hour. They're at every networking event. They're at every conference, every training session, and they sell maybe 3 or 4 houses a year. So those people aren't burnout. The ones that are still selling houses, or I'm sorry, not selling houses at all and are going to all of those events, it's because they don't want to do real estate. Real estate is a shiny object industry, and there are shiny objects everywhere you look. Without a focus, you can be distracted and allow burnout to lead your life until you're out of the business.
So what do you think the secret is to avoid burnout? I mean, can you, or is the answer you got to just white knuckle through when, being a wimp here and get through it?
So the slogan on my shirt here, "Live Unreal," that's the motto of Glover U, and the mission of Glover U is to impact the lives of millions to live their most unreal life. Now, Glover U is a real estate and business training and coaching organization, and yet the mission isn't specifically surrounding how many houses you sell. I don't necessarily care as a coach how many houses you sell. Now, that's a slippery slope, and you have to be careful because we're working on a lifestyle. We want to build your unreal life, and your version of an unreal life is different than my version of an unreal life. So understanding what makes you happy, understanding yourself, and having self-awareness is going to be critical when avoiding burnout. And once you've identified what you're doing on a daily basis and why you're doing it, the clarity starts to pick up. And when you've got a little more clarity around what you're doing, it doesn't seem like such an insurmountable task. So, for example, in most of the agents that I coach, the common theme is 6 figures. When you get into real estate, everyone seems to want to hit the $100,000 a year mark. That's like the threshold to prove that you've made it as a realtor and you can go buy the white Mercedes now. And truthfully, not everyone needs to make $100,000 in real estate. I have an agent on my team who will make $70,000 this year and will live the best life she's ever had. She's happy. She has a nice work-life balance. So knowing what it is that makes you happy will help avoid burnout as well.
I'd love to go down this path. And do you in your experience coaching people, how many people don't really understand what that life looks like? Yeah, I guess that's my first question. How many people just have no idea what that even looks like? And what do you do to help them create clarity around what that vision is?
Yeah. So I would say coming into coaching, the vast majority don't know what that life looks like. And the reason why is because of conditioning. I love Jeff Glover for this and the way that he casts his vision, because Jeff says that your idea of your best life, so in your mind, watching your parents grow up, watching your friends' parents, all of the things, like, you have been conditioned to create what you believe is your best life. And that conditioning limits us. So what we believe is our potential, or what we believe is our possible best life, it's so far beyond that. So the majority of people don't understand that concept when they come into coaching. So we have to walk them through what's called the Live Unreal formula. And this is a Glover U product where we take you through from start to finish, how much money you need to make to pay your bills, how much money you need to make to live an unreal life. And then it builds. But the first 2 steps are money and transactions. That's just the basis. It's kind of the foundation, money and transactions. And then you get into your why, your options, and your best self. And the reason why I go down that path is to let you know, the agents that get stuck in the first 2 steps, money and transactions, if everything you do just revolves around money and transactions, that's when you're going to burn out, because there's never the next step. There's never the next evolution or the next phase of your life or your career, because as soon as you stop selling houses, you run out of money. So there's a whole process for helping people identify what their why looks like, what their unreal life looks like, and how we can help get them there.
I love that. I think vision is so important. I think I would be so bold to say that understanding your vision, where you want to go, is the number one thing to combat feeling burnout. Because, just for an anecdotal story, my 9-year-old is in boxing, and I got a call yesterday because he was crying because he didn't want to go to boxing. And he's begged to get in. He loves it. He's just having a tough day, and he didn't want to go because it was speed and agility day. It wasn't, he's not punching stuff. He's having to do a pretty hard workouts, right? And so, but the whole thing is, I don't want to go because I don't want to do speed and agility. I don't want to do that. And even walking him through that, so what do you want? I just want to punch things. I want to be a good boxer. Well, tell me about what a good boxer looks like. Tell me what they do. Tell me how they move. Tell me. And you're trying to, it's hard with a 9-year-old. It's hard with real estate agents, as coaching real estate agents. But if you can attach the activity that you need to do today to the outcome that you ultimately desire, it helps you get through that grind. So
I agree.
So if people are listening right now and going, well, I have an idea. Do you help coaching clients? Is it like, a goal is just a dream if it's not written down kind of thing? I mean, are people writing down? You're having them give some tactical advice of like, if you think you understand, let's assume people have a good idea of what their vision is, their why, and where they're going, what they want their unreal life to look like. What do you coach people? How do you keep that at the forefront of people's mind?
Yeah, so it really starts around scheduling. And I know it's not like some hot new sexy topic, but scheduling a routine and a time block is kind of where we start with building out any type of coaching plan. And to echo the unreal life sentiment, we start with your non-negotiables. So if you're I was going to say a baseball coach, but you're boxing, if you're coaching boxing, right, that's on your calendar first.
Yeah.
You spend your time with your family and the people that are important with you first, and then we build the business outside of that. So we start with your non-negotiables to keep your why at the forefront of why you do what you do every single day. I'll give you a reference. I have a coaching client right now. He lives in North Carolina, and his goal is to move to Florida. And his primary source of business is expireds and for sale by owners. So we've essentially created this map. So we put this plan together. We went to Google and we typed, his address in North Carolina to the city that he wants to live in Florida. And it comes out to like 1.2 million steps if he were to walk to Florida. So we've created this concept of like, every time I call an expired, that's one step. That's one step. That's one step. So imagine if you had called 1.2 million expireds over the course of however many years it takes to call 1.2 million expireds, the contacts that you would gain, the conversations that you would have, the appointments that you would set, the money that you would make from doing all of that. And every day, all he has to do is get up and continue his walk to Florida. Just keep making your way to Florida. Day after day after day, call after call after call. It's 1.2 million steps. So
just not that many calls.
Not that many. But just to attach the activity to the outcome, right?
Yeah.
I
like that.
And there was one other thing that you mentioned, and I wanted to make sure that I came back to, because it's somewhat controversial, and I kind of get a side eye when I say this, but I will probably die on this hill. I absolutely hate the comparison culture of this industry. The comparison nature of how many houses did you sell and how much money did you make, and all of those things detract from my version of an unreal life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't care if the guy in the next office over sells more houses than I or doesn't. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It has zero impact on my bank account, on my life, on my family, on my kids, zero. So why should I care? And yet this industry has created this comparison nature, which then also fosters burnout.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I'm so passionate about it, because, I have to keep up. I have to keep up. I have to keep up. Look, Jeff Glover's a phenomenal realtor. They sell over 1,000 houses a year in the state of Michigan. I'm not doing that.
Right.
I don't want to do that. In fact, Jeff gave me his schedule that he worked when he sold 100 houses a year. He said, if you want to sell 100 houses a year, Andy, here's the schedule. I worked it for 4 weeks and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I could keep up. Right. So the comparison nature of this industry is damaging if you don't know where you want to go. So if you don't have that clear direction or that clear vision, you're going to get caught up in comparing yourself to the guy next door, and you're never going to be able to do enough and all those things.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think it's a way we borrow other people's vision without knowing it, and we think that their activities will get us to our vision. But if they're different goals, and there's also stages of life too, right? I mean, I used to work a lot more hours and a lot more ambitious towards some of the goals I thought were important until I had kids. And now my unreal life looks pretty different, than it did when I had 100 hours a week just to grind. I wouldn't sacrifice time away from my family now, because that would produce a life that I don't want anymore.
Correct. And I think that's probably why, part of that is why I'm so adamant about this is, during the COVID years, the end of 20, 21, 22, man, I was building, I was grinding. I had come back into real estate. The pandemic had flipped the world upside down, and I had to do everything possible to try and make it in real estate. And I burned out over and over and over, because I just had to keep pushing through. I had to keep pushing through. But the factor that allowed me to keep pushing through was that my wife was home with the kids, going to parent-teacher conferences, picking them up from soccer practice. That allowed me the intentional imbalance. So that's the other part of the burnout here, is like when you get out of this work-life balance, people think that once, how do I say this? People think that work-life balance should be sorry, I'm mixing my words here.
Equal time almost,
Yeah, it's like people believe there should be a work-life balance where things are equal. And I would argue that in the beginning, much like yourself, that's not the case. Listen, Michael Phelps, you think that guy didn't spend an inordinate amount of hours in the pool? Kobe Bryant, an inordinate amount of hours in the gym? Do you think their life was imbalanced, or was it out of balance? It was out of balance, and it was intentionally out of balance. So they avoided the burnout, right? They made the choice to throw their lives out of balance. So that's the other part of it. And sorry, I got off on a tangent there.
No, I like the tangent because, I think the idea of counterbalance is probably a healthier way to look at it for me. Is, sometimes work just demands a lot, and then I've got to be more intentional about counterbalancing and putting the time and attention with my family that maybe I missed out on because I was gone for a week at a conference, or I put in extra hours for a product launch or whatever. I think counterbalance is probably, for me, that's a healthier way of looking at things, is counterbalance. That's even on like a daily, weekly, monthly, and then on a seasonal time of life, there's just balance looks totally different.
Agreed.
Depending on where you're at.
One of my favorite quotes from my coach, Kate Simon. She always asks the question, "What does success look like in this season of your life?" You will answer that question differently at different stages in your life. We even have coaching clients, just to follow and avoid burnout. Like, I have coaching clients that work different schedules. When their kids are out of school, they have a summer work schedule that allows them to spend more time with their kids. When their kids are in school, they're working extra hours to make sure that they make up for the time that they didn't have. See, work-life balance is the reward. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. That's the reward for doing all the hard things early on.
So just not switching gears, but switching audiences a little bit. It seems like with the amount of burnout or overwhelmed feeling people have in the industry, specifically to team leaders, I think it's so interesting that you just started a team when if you get on a lot of podcasts, a lot of real estate communities are saying, oh man, you got to get back in production. Like that will give you more freedom. That will give you more money right now. That will. So while you're hearing a bunch of people saying, oh man, if you really want to do it right, like you need to get back in production, and maybe a team isn't the right thing. What would you say to that as a guy who just said, well, I just started a team?
Yeah, well, I guess I have to preface with like, I'm still in production. That's kind of the thing I believe that sets Glover U apart. Jeff Glover is still in production. All of our coaches are on the ground in production. And yes, I started a team this year, and I'm still the primary carrier of all the production. I'm the primary producer for now, right? But that's the thing. So when you're starting a team, it really, and people can look at this one way or another, but I've essentially decided to start a team that looks like a franchise model. So right now I'm the primary producer, and over the next 5 years, I will wean myself away, and the team will pick up all of the production, and then I'll just basically be an owner of a team, like a Subway franchise, where I've got a store manager that runs the location, and I can cast the vision, lead and coach and train, but not necessarily being the one actively in production every single day. But make no mistake about it, a solo agent in production will always be the most profitable model in this business. There is no other way to slice it. Like, that's always going to be the way you keep the most of your money.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, tell me what else. I mean, what else is we talked about burnout the whole time. If people get past that and they go, great, I'm going to work. Let's just get into some tactical advice here. What should agents be doing right now to try to grow their business and increase production and make sure, because I think there's a lot of people that listen to these conversations and they go, Andy, that's great. I get it. I get what you're saying, but I'm not paying my bills. Right. Mm-hmm. And so tell me something to go and figure out how to make money in this industry right now before I have to go get a job, because you had that experience. You went a certain month and then you went and got a job. So
yeah,
how do people not fail right now in this market?
So I really think it starts with protecting your time. We have these slogans or mottos, if you will, called the Glover-isms. And the first Glover-ism is own the morning, win the day. So agents that are starting out owning the morning, which what we define as owning the morning is lead generation, client generation. So the morning is specifically for client generation. The afternoon is for client servicing. So everything that we're doing, everything that we're coaching, everything that we're talking about before noon is strictly designed to generate business. That's it. I'm talking no inspections, no walkthroughs, no closings. None of that happens before noon because, in the words of Jeff Glover, there is no real estate, or I'm sorry, what does he say? There's no client. I'm going to butcher it now, so I'll push that to the side and give you my quote. So my quote is, there's no such thing as a real estate emergency unless the house is on fire. And if the house is on fire, call the fire department. Don't call me. So, anything can wait. Everyone can wait until afternoon. Protect your morning and lead generate. Have conversations, because right now we talked about a 30% fallout rate in the beginning. we're having to put in, nearly double the amount of work. If you were having 10 conversations before and maybe getting one appointment, you're probably going to need to have 15 to 18 conversations now to get that one appointment. So if you're struggling right now, the simple answer, protect your morning for lead generation and go talk to more people.
Well, let's go deep and very specific to your production, because I think that's impressive. And tell me what you're doing in those hours specifically to build your business.
Yeah, so it's RedX. No plug there for you. It wasn't supposed to be, but it's RedX. So myself and my team are very expired, for sale by owner, canceled, withdrawn, depending on where you are in the country, driven. In fact, that's what this is a stack of envelopes. So we send a ton of direct mail to expireds. We actually work them, and maybe I should explain a little bit before I go too deep. There are a number of different ways you can work a source like expireds. And the way that my team works them is there's 4 ways, maybe a 5th. As I get through it, I might have to count them again. So we call, right? And that's what that looks like is if you're on expireds and you're logging into your dialer at 8 a.m., you're calling all the new expireds. So everyone that just came off the market that day, you're calling that entire list. If it's 7 or if it's 70, I don't really care. You're calling that entire list. And then you hang up and you start over and you call that entire list again a second time.
Interesting. Okay.
Once you're finished there, you go to days 2 through 7 and you call that entire list twice.
Okay.
And if there's time left over after that in your lead gen time block, they roll into days 7 to 15. They try to get through that list as much as they can. While that's happening, we're prospecting via email. So every morning we pull the new list. We run it through a third-party service to pull the emails. We're prospecting via email. We're prospecting via text. We're sending direct mail. And then with the most recent ad builder feature that RedX rolled out, we're now targeting online as well. So 5 different ways we are working expireds right now.
Love it. Well, and we rolled those features out because it's just getting harder and harder to get people's attention. Yeah. Forbes just had an article recently that said that the average American is exposed to 6,000 to 10,000 advertisements a day. Like we're just bombarded, and our brains are being trained to ignore it all, right?
Yeah.
And so it's getting harder to get people's attention. But the reason why I love expireds is because and expireds kind of took a back burner the last 10 years as internet lead generation blew up. But now that's not converting hardly at all anymore, people are like, well, what do I do? Well, still right now in the last 12 months, 45% of expireds are going to relist. Well, and if you have 30% fallout, how many of those expireds are going to get relisted? And 70% of them are selling the second time around. So it's just really high intent. But more important than that, the marketing is that they're in an emotional situation. They're embarrassed, they're frustrated, they're whatever that emotion is. And when emotions are high, then your marketing can break through all of the noise to get in touch with them. So I love it. Do you have any numbers on your mailers? How many people respond to your mailers to expireds?
Let me see. I can
put you on
No, you're good.
I think a lot of people are curious because, historically, Andy, especially pre-COVID, if you would have said expireds to anyone, they would only think of it as cold calling. They wouldn't think of mailers. They wouldn't think of social media or door knocking or postcards or all the other ways you could get their attention. But if I've got a list and I can talk to 100 people that I know 45 of them are going to list with an agent in the next 6 weeks versus any other list I could call, that there's no predictive smart list that exists out there that can give you a better percentage of list rate than that.
Right.
So
let me see here. I have sent year to date 1,819 mailers. So 1819. I've closed 9 transactions from those mailers. Closed 9 from those mailers.
So, man, I'm sorry we're doing this live here a little bit. What's your? Are you just paper? What's your hard costs on a letter? 58 cents or what is postage now? 78 cents now.
No, mine are a little more expensive. They're a seller trifold in a manila envelope. Actually, I've got one right here. So they're this size.
Okay.
And I'll just grab one of these real quick and show you, because why not? So the same presentation that I would take on a listing appointment. One of these. It's just a nice little trifold, professional. I mail those out with a letter. And it probably cost altogether, it's about $1.70 per unit.
Okay. So you spent $3,100 on sending mailers out. And your average price point in your market?
So I've got it all broken down here. I can just give it to you. $52,184 in GCI year to date.
How many people listening would like to spend $3,000 to make $50,000 ROI? That's crazy.
And the cool part about it is, like, while I'm on the phone and I've got my dialer up and the screen's in front of me, I've just got a stack of envelopes and I'm writing the address while I'm here. They're folded, they're stuffed, they're ready to go. All I have to do is write it. The information's already in front of me while I'm calling. So why would I not just write the address down and send it a third way?
Yeah.
If it's close by, I will go door knock and drop one of those off.
We do this survey, Andy, every year where we ask people about door knocking. Maybe personal. I right out of high school, I did door-to-door sales selling pest control. So maybe it's maybe I just know the opportunity there a little bit, because as an 18-year-old making, 40, 50 grand in 3 months of the summer, knocking doors. But we do this survey, agents that consistently make over $250,000 a year in GCI, 60% of them still go out and knock on doors. And when we ask why, it's no secret. They go, well, because we're in real estate. like there's no better way to talk to somebody than face to face, belly to belly, toe to toe, and if I can talk to them, they're certainly aren't going to hang up on me. They're not going to curse me out. They're not, it's a totally different experience if you can knock on the door. And so I've always found that interesting, because when we compare that to agents that make less than $70,000 a year, almost none of them will go out and knock a door. In our
so survey. I'll give you 2 points to that, and it will explain a little bit about why the direct mail works as well. And I tie most of this back to COVID. So the pandemic showed us that we could work from anywhere. We didn't need to be in an office. We could go work from home. And I don't have statistics, so I couldn't ballpark a number, but I would venture to say a large portion of the workforce in America now has the flexibility to work from home, whereas pre-COVID, that wasn't a thing. So simply put, more people are home today than they were 5 years ago. Not only that, that same group of people during COVID got excited to go to the mailbox because it was their one opportunity to get out of the house while the world was shut down. As a kid, look, I was born in the 80s. Growing up in the 90s, running down the dirt road to the mailbox was like one of the things that I looked forward to every day. Now I'm 40 and I like to walk to the mailbox every day. And when my realtor still sends me stuff, I like to look at it.
Yeah.
Those are the two reasons why door knocking and direct mail are more successful now than they've ever been. And it's as a result of the pandemic.
Well, I love it. And it's great because the other thing it does, well, let me say this in a form of a question. How many times when you are calling like those other groups, your 2 to 7 days or your 7 to 15 day lists, how many of them go, oh yeah, I got your mail? Or how many of them reference
All
the
the
mail
time.
all the time?
That's usually the easiest in. When it's day 4 or day 7 and they've been called 200 times by agents in my market, and I say, hey, listen, I know you've probably gotten a bunch of calls from realtors already. My call's a little bit different. I just want to make sure you got the letter that I sent. Oh yeah, Andy, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Or if they say, no, we didn't get it, no problem. I'll get you another one. Can I drop it by this afternoon?
I love it.
It's just another tangible piece. It's another reason to get in front of them, to get in the door. If you're already doing the work and it's already in front of you, it's like, why not?
Well, look, we're bumping up against the time we told them we'd take. I want to bring it full circle and just point out to people listening. One of the things that can combat burnout, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like it's a grind, combating the apathy so that you are busy, but you're not really doing the important things, is winning. It's really fun to win. And if you keep getting those little wins, you can keep going. And so, I hope that people are looking at that going, we chose this, topics are chosen because we're listening to our followers, our users, our customers. They're saying we're overwhelmed, we're burned out, it's hard. And that's why we're even talking about this. And I go, well, I'm sorry to tell you, sorry, not sorry, that one of the best ways to do that is go do something that will get you wins. And it sounds like to me that spending $3,000 on letters to make $50,000 in ROI, that's a pretty good win. And if you don't like making the phone calls because then I hope people wrote down that script and wrote down the idea, because that sounds easy. That sounds like it took what could be considered a cold call and turned it into a warm conversation because they know who you are, and those little
There's already a face to the name.
Yeah. Those wins, so, vision and understanding why you're doing it, and then helping you get through the daily whirlwind of your business is those little wins. And I don't know. I think everybody's number one source of business should be their sphere of influence. But if you don't have a whole bunch of past clients that are giving you repeat and referral business, and you've tapped your friends and family trying to find a referral right now, the best thing to do is go to a group of people that has a high amount of list rate and start getting some wins. And if they're not, if people aren't writing down, like, I should try to send some mailers out, and not like 5 mailers and go, this didn't work, but 1,800 of them,
right?
They're crazy. So as we wrap up, Andy, what just take a second. What's your final advice for people in terms of burnout and production, and what's your advice?
Yeah. So 87% of agents quit within 5 years. And we've heard the statistic that talks about 70% of agents don't renew their license at the 2-year mark or whatever. But most people forget about that 3 to 5 year group, because there's the people that get their license and then in the first 2 years they realize this isn't for me and they quit.
Yeah.
But there's a group that renews their license and then continues on. And that 3 to 5 year group is the largest, the largest percentage of that 3 to 5 year group were burnout. So you don't fix burnout with a vacation. You fix burnout with a vision. When you wake up every single day and can know with clarity why it is you do what you do, then you're achieving or getting one step closer to achieving an unreal life. Because the clarity around an unreal life, like, it's something that you can't explain, and it's not until you feel it that you can embrace it. So it's like having a vision, knowing which direction you're going. If we're going to Florida, we're taking one step at a time, every single time. Even if it's 1.2 million steps, one step at a time, every single day. So you don't fix burnout with a vacation, you fix it with a vision. And then either you design your day or your day will destroy you.
Love it. Andy,
Yes, sir.
if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you? How can they communicate with you? If they have questions or follow up, or they need a good community or coaching, how do they find you?
Yeah, so gloveru.com/coaches. That's going to have the bios of all of our coaches there. My bio is there. You can watch some videos. And then if there's interest in coaching or contacting me, it can all be done through that site there, gloveru.com/coaches.
Awesome. Andy, thank you so much. For our listeners, I hope that you wrote something down that you can go and implement into your business right now, even if it's the idea of a vision or mailers for for expires. What an ROI. We should have a whole podcast just on your mailing strategy and go through those numbers again. But everybody, thanks so much. We're here every Thursday. Make sure you type in questions. Make sure you type in and we'll try to get back to you if we haven't answered those questions already. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks.